People froze. Mouths hung open. A chilling silence fell over the restaurant as the loud, sharp sound of a slap echoed through the air. Plates clinked, chairs screeched slightly. All eyes turned to the center of the chaos. There she stood, barefoot, wearing an old torn scarf around her hair, a faded green wrapper tied around her waist, and a blouse that had seen better days. She looked stunned. Her eyes widened, trembling lips slightly parted, holding back tears. Her cheek, red and burning from the slap, twitched, but she said nothing. He stood tall before her, clean cut, sharp, black sunglasses, Italian suit, Rolex watch. The air around him smelled of expensive cologne and arrogance. His name? Derek Owusu, the young, proud, and feared billionaire in the city of Kumdane, a man whose money spoke louder than justice, a man who believed respect was earned by wealth, not kindness. "Get out of my face, you filthy thing," Derek hissed. Hissed, his voice cold and filled with disgust. "How dare you walk into my restaurant and try to touch me? Look at your rags. Do you even know who I am?" People stared. Nobody dared to speak. Not the waiters, not the manager, not even the other rich men in the room. Derek was powerful, untouchable, and everyone knew his anger could destroy livelihoods in seconds. But what they didn't know was who the girl really was. Her name? Adira. And she was not what she looked like. Just hours before this humiliation, Adira had walked barefoot through the busy streets of Kumdane. She carried a basket of mangoes on her head, just like any village girl. Dust coated her ankles. The sun was unforgiving. Her steps were slow, like she was lost in thought. But Adira wasn't lost. She was observing, watching how people looked at her, how they laughed quietly behind her back, how they dismissed her presence like she was invisible. And she wasn't just any girl. She was the only daughter of the most powerful and wealthiest man in the entire region, Chief Zubair Matamba. A man so rich and quiet, he never showed his wealth in noise. His family lived in silence, simplicity, and secrecy. Adira had chosen this disguise on purpose. She wanted to see how people treated others when they believed you had nothing. She had grown tired of fake smiles, shallow compliments, and the way everyone bowed just because of her father's name. Today, she decided to walk into one of the most expensive restaurants in town, dressed in rags. She didn't want food. She didn't want attention. She just wanted to see. But what she got was humiliation. Back at the restaurant, Adira slowly raised her head. Her deep, calm eyes met Derek's arrogant glare. "I just wanted to pick up the coin that fell under your chair," she said softly. "It wasn't about you." Derek rolled his eyes. "Save your lies for your fellow rats. Now go, or I'll call security to throw you out." The entire place was silent. Adira didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She simply turned, picked up her little basket, and walked out slowly, one step at a time. But just before the door closed behind her, she paused. She looked back at Derek, and with a voice steady like a whisper carried by the wind, she said, "You have no idea what you've just done." And then she was gone. Outside the restaurant, people began to whisper. Some shook their heads, some laughed, some pitied her, but none of them could predict what was coming. Not even Derek. Because the girl he had just slapped? She was about to turn his world upside down. And when the truth came out, the city of Kumdane would never forget it. "You have no idea what you've just done." Those words echoed in Derek's ears all night. He kept trying to shake it off, pacing around his penthouse apartment, sipping a glass of aged whiskey, standing by the massive glass window that overlooked the glowing city lights of Kumdane. But no matter how many times he laughed it off or dismissed it in his mind, that girl's voice kept ringing in his head. "Humph," he scoffed, tossing the rest of his drink down. "Just another street rat with an attitude. Who does she think she is?" But something about her eyes, her calmness after being humiliated, the way she looked back at him without fear, it didn't sit right with him. He didn't know that Adira was already making her move. Earlier that evening, Adira had walked away from the restaurant with a deep breath. She crossed the road, ignored the stares of people who had seen what happened, and disappeared into a quiet alleyway behind a tall abandoned building. She untied her wrapper, pulled off the old scarf, and reached into a hidden pocket in her skirt. A black SUV pulled up almost instantly, its windows tinted. The door opened, and a well-dressed woman stepped out, holding a suit bag. "Are you all right, Miss Adira?" the woman asked softly. Adira nodded, though her cheek was still red. He slapped me, she said, her voice calm. In front of everyone. The woman clenched her jaw, furious. Do you want me to call? No, Adira interrupted. Not yet. This is exactly what I needed. She opened the SUV door and slid inside. As the car began to drive off, she looked out the window and whispered to herself, let's see how powerful he feels without his mask. 2 days passed. Derek thought nothing of it. He went about his usual business, cutting deals, signing contracts, shouting at his assistants. Every morning, he walked into his favorite restaurant like he owned it, which technically he did, and everyone bowed. But something started to change. It began with small, strange things. His biggest client from South Africa suddenly canceled their $3 million contract without explanation. Then his international business license renewal was delayed mysteriously, causing major losses. His face was removed from the front page of Business Titans Weekly, a magazine he personally funded. He started to lose invitations to elite events, and worst of all, his assistant came running into his office one morning with panic in his voice. Sir, you won't believe this. Derek looked up lazily from his chair. What is it now, Emmanuel? You look like a ghost. Emmanuel swallowed. Sir, there's a viral video. You're trending. Everyone is talking. What video? The restaurant, the slap. Someone recorded the entire scene and leaked it. It's everywhere. Derek sat up slowly, his face pale. What? He snatched the phone from Emmanuel's hand and clicked the link. There it was, clear as day. Him, slapping Adira, insulting her, mocking her, the part where she calmly told him, you have no idea what you've just done. And then it happened. At the end of the video, someone had added new footage that showed Adira wearing a royal blue designer dress, stepping out of a luxury vehicle, surrounded by security guards, walking into a large family mansion. The video then flashed across the screen. The girl billionaire Derek humiliated is actually Adira Zubair Matamba, the only daughter of Africa's silent billionaire giant, and she chose to disguise as a poor girl for a social experiment. This is what happens when you judge people by appearance. Justice for Adira. Derek's mouth dropped open. Wait, no, this must be a joke. This can't be real. Emmanuel was shaking. Sir, it's her. People confirmed it. The Zubair family just released an official statement. And sir, they said they're taking legal action. Derek shot up from his chair, sweat dripping down his face. No, this can't be happening. Not to me. The humiliation hit him like a train. Social media was on fire. People from all over the country were dragging him online. News stations were calling for his resignation from all company boards. Sponsors were withdrawing support. Protesters gathered outside his company headquarters. But the worst was yet to come. That same day, Adira sat quietly at the family mansion with her father, Chief Zubair Matamba, a tall, calm man with a quiet power in his voice. I didn't expect the video to go viral so fast, Adira said, stirring her tea. Her father smiled faintly. Truth travels fastest when it wears the clothes of pain. I didn't do this for revenge, she said. I did it because I wanted to test something. I wanted to know how many people would look at me and still treat me with dignity. Zubair nodded slowly. And you've seen the answer. Adira looked out the window at the sea of reporters standing outside their gates. Now the world sees him for who he truly is. But what do you want to do next? Her father asked. Adira didn't answer immediately. She looked at the scar on her cheek in the mirror. Then she said, I want to meet him, face to face, but this time, not as the poor girl. The next morning, Derek received an invitation. It was simple, elegant, an invitation to attend a private charity gala for the Zubair Foundation. In gold ink at the bottom it read, You are especially expected, Adira Zubair Matamba. Derek stared at the card like it was a ticking bomb. He dropped it and muttered to himself, I'm finished. But little did he know, what awaited him at that gala would be the beginning of the most painful lesson of his entire life. Derek walked into the lion's den, wearing perfume. That's how one of the online bloggers put it later. But the moment he stepped out of his black Bentley, dressed in his best Italian suit, his usual cocky swagger was missing. His palms were sweaty. His mind was clouded. His heart beating faster than it had in years. Cameras flashed. The media circled. But for once, no one was calling his name like before. No cheers, no praise, just whispers. He's the one who slapped her. He thought she was poor. Shame. He adjusted his tie and swallowed hard, walking up the steps of the Grand Zubair mansion. The red carpet beneath his feet didn't feel welcoming. It felt like a judgment ground. The gala was breathtaking. Crystals dangled from the high ceiling, soft music played in the background, and men in expensive agbadas and suits filled the room. Powerful business moguls, senators, governors, even international guests. Derek barely made it inside when a butler approached him. "You are requested upstairs. Miss Adira is waiting." Derek blinked. "Upstairs? Just me?" "Yes, sir. Alone." He hesitated, just for a second, then followed. As he climbed the long staircase, each step echoed like thunder in his ears. He could feel the weight of his sins on his shoulders. He reached a private room. The door was slightly open. He pushed it gently, and what he saw made him pause at the entrance. There she was. Adira, not in rags, not with a torn wrapper or dusty slippers, but in a flowing emerald green gown that hugged her like royalty, her hair braided in an elegant crown, her neck glittering with diamonds, a woman seated like a queen on a velvet chair by the fireplace, sipping from a glass. When she looked up at him, her eyes were calm, still sharp, but different now, colder. "Sit," she said softly, pointing at the single chair opposite her. Derek's lips parted, but no words came out. He slowly walked in and sat. "Adira, I?" "No," she cut him off. "Let me talk first." He nodded quickly, eyes low. "You judged me because I wore old slippers, because my scarf was faded. You assumed I was beneath you. You called me names. You raised your hand against me. Publicly." She stood, walking slowly around him. "I gave you no reason. I did nothing to provoke. You decided I was trash because I didn't sparkle." Derek tried to speak. "It was a mistake. I didn't know who you were." She turned to him sharply. "Exactly. You didn't know. But you didn't ask. You didn't treat me like a human being first. You treated me like dirt. You used your power to break a spirit." Silence. Then, finally, she walked back to her chair and sat down again. "I've seen your apologies online. Your PR team is working overtime, but that's not what I want." He looked up. "Then, what do you want?" She leaned forward slightly, her eyes piercing into his soul. "I want you to feel what I felt." He blinked. "How?" She smiled, soft but painful. "You are hereby banned from entering any Zubair-owned property in Africa. All our companies are cutting ties. Every investor we control will pull out from your businesses over the next 7 days. We've already bought silent shares in your largest partners. One by one, your empire will crumble." Derek's jaw dropped. "What? No. Adira, please." And lastly, she continued, "I'm launching a campaign, not to destroy you, but to raise awareness. I'll tell my story, and every woman who's ever been shamed, mocked, or belittled because of how she looks will join." "Please," Derek begged, now on his knees. "Don't do this. I didn't know. I didn't know." She looked at him, silent for a moment. Then she said softly, "And I didn't know you were capable of such cruelty. But here we are." He broke down, right there, kneeling, humiliated, the mighty billionaire brought low, not by violence, not by force, but by truth. Adira stood, walked to the door, and before leaving, she said one last thing. "Next time you see a woman on the street, smile. She might be the daughter of the wind that will blow your house down." And with that, she walked away. The news broke that night. Every blog, every headline. Adira destroys Derek's empire with one sentence. Slap of the century. Billionaire falls from grace after judging the wrong girl. From rags to revenge. The girl who taught the rich a lesson. And people couldn't stop talking. Derek tried to recover, tried to explain, but no one was listening anymore. Adira didn't need to scream. She didn't need to hit back. She used what he underestimated most. Her silence, her grace, her name. But the story isn't over yet. Because what came next was something no one saw coming. A man may build his empire on lies, but one truth can set it on fire. That line echoed through every radio station, every TikTok duet, and every podcast in the country. Adira's quiet vengeance had become a wildfire, and Derek's downfall wasn't just personal anymore. It was historic. But what people didn't know, what no one saw coming, was that Derek wasn't going down without a fight. 3 weeks after the gala, Derek sat alone in his penthouse, what was left of his pride sinking into the cold marble floors. The once booming calls on his phone had reduced to silence. Partnerships gone, deals frozen, board members jumping ship. He hadn't slept in days. His face, once smooth and proud, was now weary, shadowed with guilt and confusion. The headlines haunted him. People on the street looked at him like he was a villain in a movie. Strangers pointed. Employees avoided eye contact. But in all that mess, Derek discovered something he hadn't felt in years. Shame. And with that shame came a strange longing. He couldn't stop thinking about Adira, her strength, her silence, her eyes when she said, "I want you to feel what I felt." And somehow, he did. He wanted to say sorry, not with press releases, not with tears, but with truth. So he did something no one expected. He drove, not in his usual flashy Bentley, not with bodyguards or photographers, just him. Driving out of the city, into the rural areas, searching. Why? Because he wanted to find the old Adira, the one in the slippers, the one he slapped, the one who sold bread on the roadside. He wanted to understand her world, the version of her that he humiliated before he knew her name. He searched for days, asking around, tracing stories, and then, one dusty morning in a small village near the edge of the community, he found her spot. It was a little wooden table by a roadside, under a tree. Two old women sat there now, selling vegetables. "Excuse me," Derek said, stepping out of his car, removing his sunglasses. They looked up. "Sorry to disturb you, but did a girl named Adira ever sell bread here?" The older woman squinted, then gasped. "Ah, you're that boy, that rich boy that slapped her. What are you doing here?" Derek lowered his head. "I came to say sorry, not to her title, not to her power, but to the version of her I disrespected." The women stared. Then one of them pointed down the road. She used to go to the orphanage there, every weekend, feeding the children. You want to know the real her? Go there. So he did. What Derek found shocked him. The orphanage was tiny, worn walls, few supplies, but every child there smiled when her name was mentioned. "Adira is our sister. She brings us food and books. She plays with us even when it's raining." And as he sat on a bench listening to those kids, watching their joy, tears filled his eyes. He finally understood. He hadn't just slapped a girl. He had disrespected a heart, a soul, a light. Days later, Derek stood in front of cameras again, not in a press hall, not on a red carpet, but outside the orphanage with a microphone in his hand and rawness in his voice. "I came here not to fix my image, but to fix my heart," he said, eyes heavy. "I hurt someone who never deserved pain. I judged a woman by her shoes instead of her spirit. And I've lost everything because of it. But today I want to rebuild, not my business, but my conscience." And just like that, the internet turned quiet. People didn't know what to say. Was this a show, or was it real? Even Adira, watching the clip on her phone later that night, paused. She stared at his face, his eyes, and for the first time, she saw a man. Not the arrogant billionaire, but a man, flawed, broken, trying. She put her phone down slowly and whispered, "Maybe." But just when you think the storm is over, another thunder rolls in. Because someone had been watching everything from the shadows. Someone with a secret. Someone who hated both Derek and Adira. And was about to change the game completely. A slap can fade, but betrayal? That one cuts deep. The world had begun to calm. Derek's public apology had gone viral, sure, but it didn't mean everyone forgave him. Some people cheered for his growth. Others called it a stunt. But Adira? She remained silent. Until one afternoon, a black envelope was slipped under her office door. No name, no logo, just a note inside. She unfolded it, brows narrowing. "You think Derek has changed? Ask him about the Golden Chain Project. Ask him what happened to the missing land. A friend." Adira blinked. What in the world is this now? She had no idea that this was just the beginning of the real fire. Derek, on the other hand, was doing everything to fix his soul. He donated his cars. He sold 2 houses and gave the money to the orphanage. He walked into schools and paid tuition fees for random students. He kept saying, "It's not guilt, it's growth." But he forgot one thing. The past doesn't vanish. It hides and waits. The Golden Chain Project. It was a $1 billion estate development plan Derek once led years ago. The government gave him land. Promises were made. But somewhere in the chaos of ambition, things got messy. People were evicted. Some never compensated. That story never made the headlines. But now, someone was digging it up. And that someone was Zane. Zane was Derek's ex-best friend, former business partner, and the one who got kicked out when Derek's ego grew too big for 2 people. Zane had waited in silence, waited for Derek to fall. And now, he wanted blood. Adira stood in her private office, documents spread across the table. She had started investigating, quietly, carefully. What she found shook her. Derek had signed off on land clearance that destroyed 3 villages. Old women pushed out of their farms, fishermen driven off rivers. A young girl died when a bulldozer hit a makeshift hut. He didn't do it with his own hands, but his signature was on the paper. Adira's hands trembled. She had begun to forgive him. She saw his tears. She believed his words. But this was something else. This wasn't a slap on the street. This was blood. Later that night, Adira called him. "Hello?" Derek picked up, cautiously hopeful. "We need to talk," she said, her voice tight. "Sure, about what?" "The truth." Silence. A long, deadly silence. Then, "I was young," Derek said softly, "too ambitious. I didn't check the contracts. I let lawyers handle it. I didn't know people were suffering." "Stop," she cut in. "You didn't know because you didn't care to look." He exhaled sharply. "I've changed, Adira. I swear." She hung up. The next day, a press conference was held. Not by Derek, but by Adira. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. She stepped onto the stage like a queen, calm, elegant, composed. She spoke gently, but her words cut deep. "I was slapped on the street by a man who thought I was poor. I forgave him. He apologized. He tried to change. But there's a difference between mistakes and patterns." She took a breath. "People lost their homes because of carelessness. Some lost their lives. So I will not let that be forgotten in the name of redemption." Boom. Social media exploded. Adira exposes Derek. Forgiveness revoked? From slap to scandal. What next? Derek watched it all. He didn't fight back. He didn't beg. He simply walked into his office, gathered his staff, and said, "I'm stepping down." They gasped. He smiled faintly. "Sometimes power is the problem. Maybe I need to learn without a throne." Weeks later, Adira walked into the same orphanage where it all began. The kids ran to her. She smiled, genuinely. Then someone tapped her shoulder. She turned. It was Derek, in a plain shirt, jeans, no bodyguards, just him. "I came to say goodbye," he said softly. "Where are you going?" "Away. I need to rebuild. Not a company. Myself." She stared at him. "Will I ever see you again?" He smiled, eyes a little wet. "Only if I become a man worthy of being in the same room as you." And with that, he walked away. For real this time. No noise, no headlines, just footsteps on dust. Moral of the story? Don't judge anyone by what they wear. Don't think power makes you invincible. Because the girl you slap today might be the queen you kneel to tomorrow. And sometimes the loudest revenge is silence.